If you're someone who failed at getting fit in 2024, then you're probably feeling a little frustrated right now. Maybe feeling annoyed, maybe you're feeling disappointed, or you're feeling like it's time to make a change. The only problem is if you go back to what got you here, you're not going to improve in the new year and you're going to repeat the same failures again. So today we're going to show you 4 common pitfalls that business leaders fall into that keep them from getting fit. So we can show you what you need to do differently in 2025 so you can make this change and be successful with your fitness and health. My name's Brian Pickowitz.
And I'm Lindsay Pickowitz, and we are the head coaches at The Fitness Project, where we specialize in building fit, healthy leaders. Now, if that is one of your goals for the next year, and that's an area you want to focus on, like Brian said, the worst thing you can do is think that all is going to be well. It's going to magically change as we start off the new year because you feel motivated. The truth is, if we don't actually get to the root problem of why you weren't successful this year, then we're going to repeat the same patterns. And therefore, you're going to get to the end of 2025 feeling the same way you do now. This is the best time to intervene and avoid staying at the surface or the symptom of the problem and actually get down to the root of what happened so that you can better approach the problem and overcome it in the next year.
Now, Lindsay and I have spoken with over 1,000 business leaders all throughout the year. And the interesting thing about people is we're universally the same, right? We all fall into the same patterns, the same challenges. They might look a little unique in this area or that area, but they usually manifest the same way or put in a more actionable way or maybe a more practical way. There's usually a few patterns that keep us all stuck, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about those 4 unique patterns, and then we're going to show you how to overcome them, what you have to do differently in the new year to really make a change. Now, one of the things we talk about a lot on the podcast is the difference between symptoms and root problems. Now, a symptom is the manifestation of the problem itself. So it's the effect that we feel as a byproduct of having the problem to begin with. For example, a lot of times people say, I don't have time. I don't have enough time to work out. And that might feel like a reality. But the truth is it's usually a byproduct of something happening backstream. Now, that might look like poor time management skills. That might be not setting proper boundaries, not setting proper priorities, right? You might be prioritizing the wrong things. Or for a lot of people, they don't actually define how much time they need. And so they're setting this really high bar of how much they need to work out or how much they need to put in a meal prep. And so it's keeping them stuck in this pattern of believing, I just don't have time to get healthy. And so that might feel real, right? It might feel real in the moment. I just don't really have time to work out for an hour. That might be the case. But what we want to start doing is saying, okay, if you don't have time to work out for an hour, how much time do you feel like you really need in order to get in shape? Right? Because there might be a limiting belief that's backstream that's saying, oh, well, if I don't work out 5 days a week for an hour, then it's not worth it at all. And so a lot of this conversation we're going to have today is going to be looking at the difference between the symptom, right? The symptom that's happening, the thing that you feel like is the problem, and then looking at what's causing that. So as you reflect for yourself, think, okay, is this an actual symptom, or is it something that if I fixed it backstream would actually alleviate the problem altogether?
Yeah, and there's really 4 different patterns that we see consistently, and we've seen consistently over this year as well. So look and see where you find yourself. You might resonate with each of the patterns. You might feel like at different points in the year you were each of these people, but there also might be one that specifically stands out to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to outline the pattern, think about your own experience as we're explaining it. If it resonates, open up your ears even more because then we're going to give you the solution. Okay, problem, root problem, solution. Here's how to think about this differently or approach it differently. So that's how we're going to flow through this podcast specifically. Sound good? Let's do it. Pattern number 1. Let's start kind of describing this because this is probably the most common.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear you go through that.
So the symptoms are usually that people don't feel motivated. They feel like they fall off track. They feel frustrated with their fitness. And that's usually a sign that you have a short-sighted goal, So if you have a short-sighted goal, what it usually means is you don't really have a deadline that's realistic. So you're saying, oh, I just got to lose weight. I just got to lose weight fast. I just got to lose as much weight as possible. It's that just that shows up in our language pattern that tells us that we don't have a concrete goal and we don't have a realistic timeline. It's not specific enough. And so if you're just winging it, right, which we'll talk about in a moment, but if you're saying, oh, I just need to lose weight as fast as possible, we usually go back to this all or nothing mindset. This all or nothing pattern shows up. And when you're all or nothing, what usually manifests is a sense of overwhelm because you're trying to correct everything at once. And so you don't have a specific goal, you don't have a specific timeline, you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. And so you end up feeling like, oh, if I'm not perfect, it's not worth it because I'm not going to hit my target. It's really hard to feel motivated when you set the bar to lose 30 pounds in a month and you step on the scale and you've only lost 5. And when that happens, we get to the state of overwhelm where we just start being inconsistent, right? We don't hit the workouts. We don't track our food. We say, screw it. It doesn't really matter because I'm not going to hit my goal altogether. And we perpetuate this cycle over and over and over again. And you'll see it happen with people. If you've ever done really well for 4 weeks and not seen the goal come to fruition, and then you say, well, screw it, doesn't matter. Or you go on vacation, right? And you fall off track a little bit. You step on the scale when you get back. You saw you gained weight and you're so irritated and frustrated. These are all signs that you do not have a long-term vision. You don't have a clear enough purpose, and it's not obvious how getting healthy and fit will improve your life.
Yeah, and what I would say is the easiest way to identify if this is your pattern is I have a short-sighted goals. If you tend to reduce the size or the impact or the value of your goal to the word just. It's such a simple way to identify this pattern, but you'll see it with yourself over and over again. I just need to get back into a routine. I just need to lose some weight. I just need to get my acting gear. I just need to do this. That's a sign, a very sure sign that you've got a short-sighted goal or you have a short-sighted mindset about the process of getting healthy. You think, if I just do these couple quick things that I can get done this week, everything will be well. And that is actually underestimating what it's going to take to become healthy. It doesn't mean that you do have to actually overcorrect and be perfect, but when you say the word just, it's underestimating what it takes, and then you end up thinking that you're the problem. When in reality, it's just that you weren't appropriately sizing the task at hand, just like with business or with work. If you undersize or underestimate the duration or the effort that's going to be required to complete a project, you end up feeling really rushed. You end up feeling really stressed about it. You end up trying to pull all the different strings at once, and then it becomes this whole catastrophe, or it can, right? Fitness is the same thing. If you underestimate what it takes and you have a short-sighted goal, then it's going to be really hard to be successful over the long term. So give yourself that. That's just pattern number 1 that leads to overwhelm and inconsistency.
And so the solution, if you are someone who is setting short-sighted goals, the way you want to approach 2025 for your fitness is build a long-term vision. Ask yourself, where do you want to be at the end of the year? Not at the start, right? Ask yourself, where do you want to be in 2026? Or where do you want to be in 2030? Right? What's that long-term vision that matters to you? And there's 3 simple questions you can ask yourself to kind of build out this frame. First, what is your result? Do you want to lose 30 pounds? Do you want to build bigger biceps? Do you want to have more muscle? What's important to you? And then the second part of that is, what's the purpose? Why is this goal important to you? What meaning do you associate with accomplishing that goal? Is it going to make you feel more confident? Are you going to have longevity? You're going to be able to play basketball with your kids? What matters to you? And then the third question, which is the tether between all the things that we value in life, how will accomplishing this goal improve the other areas of my life? So if you are a business leader, how will you showing up in a state of confidence and certainty improve your business? How will it improve your family if you're a healthy role model or you have more energy or you're not feeling drained at the end of the day? You have to start to link that success in this area will improve another area. Because if you don't, you're not linking your health to something else you value. And that inconsistency is going to mean that whenever business is suffering, you drop this completely. Whenever your family needs you, you stop focusing on your health. It doesn't mean you have to overcorrect and say my health is my only important thing. I'm going to sacrifice my business and my family. But you have to start to associate that taking care of yourself makes something else in your life better. Because if you don't, there's no purpose, there's no connection, and you're always going to default to your other patterns. So again, have a vision, know your result, know why it's important, and understand the impact it's going to have on your life.
Well said. Now, let's say that you have tried multiple different things to get in shape over the course of 2024. Let's say that you went back to fasting, or you went back to some type of diet or some type of training program that you did in the past, and it just didn't work. It just didn't stick. Something about it just wasn't flowing for you. Well, you might fall into category or pattern number 2, which is that you actually have the wrong strategy. For a lot of people, when they go back to something that they did in the past and they're like, I'm going to get in shape. I've done this before. I've been fit for a lot of my life. They have this set of references that I am successful when I do this and I do that. Low carb, yoga, plyo, whatever it is that you did in the past. And so what they do is they lean on those references and say, they ignore any changes that have happened in their life. And they say, I am still me and I can do this. So I'm just going to do what I did. And that should equate to the same result. The disconnect is that 1, you're older, guarantee. You're older than you were when you did that thing in the past. And 2, your life has probably changed quite a bit. It's so fascinating that this is such a disconnect for all of us. We tend to forget that we are a different person now than we were 10 years ago, and that our life is not the exact same. So if you were in shape in your 20s and you didn't have kids and you went to the gym every single day after work, that was you in your 20s when all that mattered was work and working out.
And finding a mate, which is why you went to the gym.
Yes. But if you're in your 40s or your 50s now, not only are you older, I guarantee your career has taken a different shape. I guarantee that if you had kids, your body has changed, or at least your lifestyle if you weren't the one having the kids. And so many other priorities have shifted. So to think that you can put the same amount of time and energy and focus into your fitness that you did in your 20s is really not realistic. It's not realistic, and it's not fair to yourself, because again, if you go back to what you did, not only is going to be tough for your schedule, maybe tough for the way that your priorities have changed, like it doesn't feel as good, it also could really hurt your body. So you might not lose weight. You might end up feeling like you overdid it, or you pulled a muscle your first workout because you shouldn't be doing HIIT anymore, right? So if you just have the wrong strategy, you might end up blaming yourself, whereas the root problem is that you're winging it and you're tossing yourself back to a strategy that's actually just not right for your body or your season of life.
It's so important that we start to recognize that we can't go back to an old strategy in this season of life and expect that it's going to work for our body and the results that we want. As we age, we have to change the way we train. And just going and saying, well, I like doing this thing, I'm going to go and do that again, that might not be the right approach. For example, I went and played in an alumni basketball game at my high school. I am still, at almost 31, in great shape. I've run marathons. I can run a half marathon. I'm strong. I'm fit. All the things tell me mentally that I should be able to go and do this. Now, when I show up at this alumni game, I'm running, I'm competing with all these 20-year-olds, and I thought I was doing pretty good. In all fairness, I thought I did really well. But the next day, my back and my knees were so sore. And that's because I don't jump. I don't do a lot of agility training. I don't do sprints. So even though I'm in shape in one category, in another category, I'm not in shape. I'm not in athletic shape. So if I think, well, I'm just going to go start playing basketball again, and that's going to be my way to get in shape and be active, that might not be the right strategy for my body. That might actually lead me to feeling injured. Or if you think about the psychology of what's motivating me, maybe I feel low energy. I'm feeling exhausted. Man, I got to start exercising again. And I go and overcorrect. And then the thing that I associate with exercise is I'm so sore after I work out that the next day I don't want to do this. right? Or it hits me in another pain where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so out of shape. And then I feel defeated. So if you're in that spot where you're trying to go back to what used to work in order to get in shape this season, that's probably the wrong approach. So what you need to do, right, if you are someone who is struggling to get in shape, you need to upgrade your strategy, which means that you need to change the way you work out. You might need to do less. You might need to do something different. You might need to prioritize mobility or proper strength training or stretching or yoga, right? There might be something else that you have to put in place that meets your body where it's at. And then you might have to reduce the amount of time that you used to commit to it. It might be working out for 3 days or 2 days instead of the 5 that you're used to. It might be going for walks in between. Something that's more applicable to your body, something that's more applicable to your business and your lifestyle and the other responsibilities that you have. You have to change the strategy, because if you don't change the strategy, you're going to stay on this cycle of not getting to where you want to be.
If you struggled to get in shape last year, then you also will need to upgrade your strategy for your nutrition. Because most likely, if you are in this category of somebody who's been going back to an old strategy, you're going back to a diet. You're going back to a mindset that is restrictive. 8 out of 10 people go back to a mindset with dieting and nutrition that is restrictive. It's, I can't eat carbs. I do my best when I don't eat carbs. It's, I can't have sugar. I do my best when I don't have sugar. The mindset, the belief system is all about cutting things out. Same thing with keto is the same, right? Keto is we cut out every carb source and we just eat fat. That's a diet, but it is a naturally restrictive diet. So rather than thinking with the lens of the past, we might want to take on a more sustainable approach in the present that doesn't require cutting calories, that doesn't require tedious meal prep, that doesn't require hours and hours of effort on food when you have a business to take care of and a family to take care of. Again, think in terms of not just your training, but also your nutrition. Upgrade the strategy, and that's the solution. You're not the problem. Your strategy is the problem in this particular instance.
So if that's category number 2, the third pattern is recognizing when stress derails your progress. Now, this is, again, the symptom. A lot of people that we talk to say, oh, I'm a stress eater. Or at the end of the day, I just want to relax. And so I sit down on the couch and I eat out of boredom. It's important to know that the manifestation of stress or anxiety or overwhelm or frustration, those are all symptoms of a deeper problem, which is we do not know how to manage our emotions. If you want to get fit in 2025, you have to take ownership of your emotions. Now, it does not mean that you don't feel emotions. It does not mean that you just put your head down and you stay in your logical brain at all times. But you have to start building better tools for how you manage your state, because the strategy is only going to be useful if you're in a resourceful state to put it into action. And so we have to start to understand that a lot of times it's our emotions that get in the way. It's how we handle stress. It's how we handle overwhelm. It's how we handle the frustration of stepping on the scale and being like, oh my gosh, it didn't go down by 10 pounds this week. So recognizing that the actual pattern is not that the stress is the problem. It's how we manage our emotions. And so recognizing that pattern, we can start to build some new tools to get to the other side and really live a healthy life.
You know that you are falling off track because of your emotions if you tend to say things like, I'll have one off day and then throw it all away. I'll eat one piece of pizza and then I forget everything else from there and it snowballs. What you're really saying, in even just those 2 instances I just gave, is that I felt like a failure and I became a failure. I felt frustrated. And so I allowed my frustration, which is an emotion, to change my efforts, change my behavior. It's the same thing when you step on the scale. If you step on the scale after 2 weeks of effort and the scale shows a higher number, then you give up. Well, all we're saying is that my emotions dictated my behavior. My emotions allowed me to fall off track. And so what Brian's alluding to is that the solution, if this is really the main challenge and the main pattern for you, is you get momentum, something gets stressful or frustrating or work gets busy and you fall off, well, then we need to develop emotional intelligence, which might sound so silly. It might sound like, well, I know myself. Be humble in this particular instance, because it can be very, we'll say, frustrating to realize that, yes, your emotions actually are getting in your own way. You are allowing your stress and your troubles to keep you from being healthy. But again, just because you're frustrated doesn't mean that you can't get through this. You can't learn. So give yourself a little grace. If this has been your pattern for the course of 2024, give yourself grace first. You can't move forward from a place of judgment. And then get curious. All right, I hear you. What usually happens? Is it the weekend comes? Is it that I do step on the scale and it gets frustrating? Is it that like work ramps up and then I feel overwhelmed and then I just say I'll start next week? Actually get curious about the instances that tend to throw you off track. Because what we need to develop when I say emotional intelligence is really both mindfulness and mental flexibility. If you have a sense of mindfulness, then you're aware of the pattern as it's happening, as opposed to being able to catch it after it's already happening, going, oh, damn it. I wish I could go back and not have that third piece of pizza or that fifth drink. You want to be able to catch it in the moment. So that's mindfulness. And then mental flexibility is what you employ when things don't go your way, right? When your schedule changes, when work flares up, or you had to stay late and you skipped your workout, instead of throwing it all away, which is somebody who's inflexible, they're black or white, they say all in or all out, that mental flexibility says, okay, well, I could definitely stretch before bed, and at least that's something. And then I'll make sure that tomorrow morning I get up a little bit earlier, I get a 30-minute workout in, so that I'm not throwing it away and hoping for a better result later. Let's actually be intentional. Let's be flexible. Let's be intentional with what we do when our schedule gets in the way or gets tossed up in the air. So that's really what you're aiming for. And I know we're getting a little bit deeper and more complex as we go through these patterns, but again, all we're trying to do in this particular video and episode is to build some awareness. Because if you aren't aware of what has gone wrong or why it's gone wrong, it's really hard to change it. And if you're solving the wrong problem, then you're going to end up in the same place and wonder what the heck is wrong with you. When in reality, we just need to get to the root problem. We need to get the right solution and we need to get the right support.
So when we talk about building emotional intelligence, it's really important to understand that a lot of times the reason why we fall off track is because we use food as a vehicle to change our state. We were talking on one of our coaching calls this morning with a group of clients, and this one client said, oh my gosh, like my husband gets home and he opens up the bottle of wine, and although I don't really want to have a drink, I end up having a drink. And so she's like, okay, I just need to work on the alcohol. And I said, yes, maybe, but it's really important that you understand that the alcohol is just a vehicle for something else. When you drink, you feel relaxed and you get a sense of connection, right? Because it's you and your partner doing this together. You're connecting, you're experiencing something, you're in love, you're in rapport. It's all those things that you're receiving as a byproduct of doing something together. The key here is understanding that if you want to change the pattern, you have to understand the need it meets. So what do you receive from the food? What do you receive from that action? How does it make you feel, right? And so the key here is awareness. If you build awareness around what you do and then how you feel when you're doing it, the key is understanding that we need to find a healthy way to meet that same need. So if Lindsay and I love eating cheeseburgers together, we go out, we get Five Guys, we have this meal together every Friday. That's one example. We might have a bunch of food. It might be Mediterranean food. It might be a baked good, whatever it is. But if that's something that we do together and that usually derails my progress, the question is, how can I get a sense of love and connection with my wife without turning to food? How can I find a healthier way to meet that need? And there's a lot of practical application that I can put in place that might still meet that need. It might be setting a better rule for myself when I eat the food. Oh, we only split a cheeseburger versus both of us having our own. It might be we sample a few baked goods and then we bring it home later. It might be we find a healthier restaurant. We might not even start with food. We might just say, hey, let's go for a walk once in a while. Maybe that's how we get connection. But we want to start to understand that a lot of times the things that derail us are our emotions, how we manage them. And if we can build awareness around the pattern, when it shows up, what we do, and then find a healthier way to come down from that emotion, that's the resilience that we need to get to the other side and be successful. You're a human. You're going to feel emotions, period, because it's part of the experience. Understanding that is the key to really building a healthy life that gives you longevity.
Now, so far, the 3 patterns that we've covered are potentially if you feel like you never stick with anything for long or you get too overwhelmed to really get momentum or start, then you might have a short-sighted goal. We broke that apart, and then we said, you know what, maybe you do actually get in a good groove for a couple weeks, but then either it's too much for your body or your schedule, you can't keep it up. Well, then you probably have the wrong strategy, which is pattern number 2. And then number 3, if you tend to either find yourself stress eating, over drinking, falling off on the weekends specifically, or in the nighttime specifically, and anytime that stress flares up, that tends to be the trigger that leads to the snowball effect of falling off, well, then you might be allowing your emotions to derail your progress, which might mean that you need more tools or ability to manage those emotions and have some flexibility and mindfulness. 4th, and this is one that I think a lot of you will resonate, a lot of the people who listen, because I see it almost with every single person that we talk to, and that is, it's just you, yourself, and you trying to get healthy. If you are on an island and maybe you are the healthiest person you already know, or you're the only one in your circle that really does want to move health up the totem pole of their life and of their priorities. Either way, it tends to feel like there's so much friction around your desire to change because you feel like you have to make separate meals from your family, or you feel like you have to leave your family or your work to go prioritize your workout or your health. Again, maybe you're the healthiest person you know already and you just want to take it to the next level. Well, then everybody around you is probably telling you to stay the same by saying, you know what, you look fine. You're already in great shape. What are you talking about? And then you kind of feel guilty and you feel bad of like, hey, this isn't my standard. Right? So if that's really where you're at, then the root problem isn't that maybe you don't know what to do or that you don't have motivation or you don't have time. It's really just that you're doing it alone. You're on an island. You don't have any support. You don't have any accountability. In fact, a lot of times you have the opposite of accountability. You have people pulling you off track because it's their normal behavior. Because again, you're the only one doing it. Mm-hmm. And so the solution is really simple on that one. You got to get accountability. You have to have people around you who share that same value. And there's so many different ways to get that in your life. But doing it alone is not something that gives you a badge of honor or suffering for the longest because you figured it out on your own and got through the struggle. It's like, nobody's going to give you a medal for that. You need to get some good people around you.
Yeah, one of the worst ways to learn anything is trial and error, doing it on your own. Because you have to go through every single failure, and it's so painful and slow. There's a reason why for the span of human history, mentors, guides, apprenticeship has been the key to anyone being successful. Mm-hmm. Because we learn best when we have someone who's guiding us. So in your health, when we think of accountability is not judgment. It's not shame. It's not beating you up. You do not need a drill sergeant. Some of you might need a swift kick in the ass once in a while, and that's good self-awareness. But a lot of times accountability is refocusing you. Hey, you said you wanted this goal. Reminder, this is your goal. This is your goal. This is your goal. Why is it important? Why are we focused on this? Because when you have so many things going on, you have your business, you have your family, you might lose focus on your health. Great accountability is also new strategies, adjustment. Hey, you said you wanted this goal, but you got a vacation coming up or your business is really ramping up. Okay, how do we adjust things? How do we make sure that this fits in your life still? Great accountability is someone in your corner who's navigating the situation with you, who's guiding you through the process, keeping you refocused, and making sure that you're successful. Being that support system outside of your life in a non-judgmental way so you can actually get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the 4 patterns that most likely led to your failure in 2024. The key here is understanding that this is your opportunity to learn. This is your opportunity to think outside of the box and ask yourself the question, how can I learn from this and improve going into the new year so I can finally get to where I want to be and be successful with my fitness and health?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, if you're experiencing the gap between knowing and doing, it's probably because of one of these 4 patterns that has hold of you and has had hold of you for many years. And so if we want to get past it, if we want to bridge that gap between I know what to do and I just need to do it, well, then we have to actually resolve those obstacles that have built themselves in your way. The obstacle is indeed the way. And if you have heard this and now you're in the zone where you're like, all right, I want to get past this. I want to work through this. I want to find a new way. Then we want to offer you a complimentary coaching session with us at the Fitness Project. At the Fitness Project, like we said at the front, we build fit and healthy leaders. We work specifically with executives and business owners and very high level, high pressure clients who are dealing with a lot, but they do not want to settle for being unhealthy. They know that their health is the most important. They're just struggling to put all the pieces together and actually build a healthy life in this particular season. And if that's where we're at, we would love to help you. We will help you identify what your long-term vision is, what your biggest block is, and what we need to do to get through it. And we are going to actually do all of that in 15 to 20 minutes, believe it or not. Regardless of whether or not you become a client, you will get so much out of this coaching session. We can promise you that. We are going to link a button below where you can grab and schedule your free coaching session with us at the Fitness Project. You're going to fill out a couple of quick questions so we can deliver on that promise to get to the root of the problem with you and strategize appropriately. And then you're going to find a time on our calendars to book that 15 to 20 minutes for yourself. Bring a notebook and pen, be ready to learn, and we are here to help you break through so that 2025 can be a massively successful year, not just for business or family, but also for you and for your health. And that said, is there anything else that you might add?
No, we hope that this has been helpful. We'd love to hear your big takeaway in the comment section below. But thank you for your ear. We hope that you're in a better spot going into the new year than you came into this moment. And now take these little insights and go out and conquer your day.
Cheers.
Cheers.